Leave everything regarding the paperwork to me. After we got married, we thought about buying a house, but my husband left it up to me. He probably didn't like his meager free time being consumed by work. I, on the other hand, had a job but more free time, so I did everything as he told me. And when I was about to seal the deal with the estate agent, the man said, "Your husband's name cannot be used to buy this property because his annual income is—" I was shocked to hear this. I had no idea that his salary was so low. We ended up transferring the deed into my name and bought the property. My name is Anne. I'm a 29-year-old web designer in my 7th year of my career. I quit the company I worked for right after graduation and have been freelancing since last year. Focusing on work, I never really cared much about money. I put my salary from my first job into stocks and built up assets. I have a husband, Mike, who is 5 years older than me. He works as a delivery driver in the transport industry. Our meeting happened fatefully on the platform of a railway station. He ran after me to return my wallet, which I dropped without noticing. I took him out to dinner to thank him, and our relationship grew closer and turned into a date. Then, a year and a half ago, we happily became husband and wife. However, after we were married, our life together was not at all what I had imagined. My husband worked long hours at a grueling company, and as a freelancer, I always had plenty of projects to do. Right now, we live in a flat that is less than 400 square feet, but I'm thinking about moving into a house. I thought it might be a good motivation for both of our careers. Working in such a tight space was stressful for me. So, on his day off, I brought up the idea of buying a new house. "Hey, Mike, don't you think it's time for us to buy a new house now that we're married?" He seemed surprised at my words, jumping up from the couch he was lying on with sleepy eyes. "A house? Yeah, I think this place is getting too small for us." "Maybe I'll put conditions on it then?" I was surprised at his words, but he wrote the desired conditions on a notepad lying nearby and held it out to me. His list, which included at least 4 rooms, 2 bathrooms, and a wine cellar, was very different from what I had imagined. "We don't need a wine cellar. And isn't 1 bathroom enough?" To my objection, he replied firmly, "No, that won't do. This is about romance. Buying a house is a once-or-never event in life. I won't settle for anything half-hearted." He was incredibly stubborn. I'd rather spend my time working than having a discussion that goes nowhere. In the end, I reluctantly agreed to his terms. "Then let's go to the estate agent together next time." Suddenly, he looked annoyed. "Ah, that's all right. You can handle all that, and I'm tired from work. I'll leave the rest to you." With those words, he lay back on the couch and started fiddling with his mobile phone. Does this man even realize he's married? We are about to make the biggest purchase of our lives, and he is completely uncooperative. After telling me what he wanted, he was satisfied and went back to his world. Frustrated, I sighed and said, "Then just leave me something that shows your income. There's going to be an audit, and I need to get it done." When I said, "You can find it in my valuables box. Take it yourself," he replied, and put on his headphones, ending the conversation completely. It's not that he's a totally cranky husband, but he only says what he wants and is otherwise aloof. Honestly, he's incredibly self-centered. Before we got married, he was so kind. Taking my wallet, which now seems like a lie, I muttered this, not knowing if my husband heard, and headed to my room. It was that night when I noticed something was wrong with my body. After finishing work, I glanced at the calendar. Come to think of it, I haven't had my period for 2 months now. I always had severe and irregular menstrual cycles. It was not unusual to be a month late, but this was the first time it's been 2 months. Could it be? Worried, I used the pregnancy test I had bought in advance. The result was positive. "I'm pregnant, Mike." My announcement left my husband frozen in front of the TV. "Seriously," I said to my surprised husband, thinking about the birth and everything else. "I guess we should hurry up with buying the house, so I'm going to the real estate agent tomorrow, okay?" He was still in shock. He looked incredulous, but then, "What?" my husband said next shocked me. "What if we give up on the child?" His unexpected words left me speechless. "What? Give up as in not have it?" He nodded before I could finish. "Yeah, that's what I mean. Why?" I argued desperately. I was beginning to feel a strange disconnect between us. I mean, I never wanted kids, it just happened. I can't believe you got pregnant just from us having a bit of fun, he said with a wry smile. His words, so thoughtless, wounded me deeply. I felt like I had been hit with a hammer. And if we have a kid, we can't have fun anymore. His words sounded like a whining child, but I couldn't back down. This was a precious life growing inside me. I was determined to have this baby. And a child definitely needs a father. I had to get him to take this seriously. Looking back, I realized how mistaken my thinking was at that time. Mike, please, get it together. People in their 30s around the world start families earlier than us. I'll do my best, so you have to try too. Perhaps moved by my passion, my husband reluctantly gave in. All right, it has been said. Hearing this, I felt somewhat relieved and visited the real estate agent the next day. The price will be higher than the market average with the conditions you've requested. The agent frowned as he looked at the paper where I had written our wishes. Then he handed me a sheet of paper. This is the only property that meets all advanced conditions. There was only one that matched all our criteria among several options, but even that $700,000, the price, was significantly higher due to our many conditions. But now we were expecting another family member. I couldn't bring myself to compromise. After some thought, I'll purchase this property, I said. We proceeded with the purchase process. Please fill in the necessary items on the application form. Who will be the owner? My husband. I began filling out the form, but when I got to the annual income section, my pen stopped. Wait, Mike earns $25,000, I blurted it out, looking at the salary statement he had given me. We rarely talked about money in our current life. We both contributed equally to expenses and saved the rest, so I had no idea about my husband's salary. It's difficult to say, but with this amount, the application might not pass. The apologetic agent's words made me feel embarrassed. He continued, By the way, there are a couple of other customers considering this property. If you don't decide today, it might be sold out. Those words were nothing short of pressure for me. After hearing that, I felt I had to buy it today. After some hesitation, I decided to change the owner to my name, and then I made a bold decision to pay in full. I could just cover it with the money I had saved from stock investments and the inheritance from my grandfather. I can always save more money later. The agent was initially surprised by my actions, but then handled the rest of the process efficiently. So, a month later, we moved into our dream home. Wow, this is amazing! My husband exclaimed with excitement as soon as we entered our new home. By the way, you're going to have the baby, right? Are you going back to your parents' house? He asked while unpacking. Yes, that's the plan. My hometown is Anchorage. I could have the baby here, but I feel more at ease having it at my parents' place. Okay, good luck. His words felt somewhat distant. I started to feel unsure. My anxiety grew as my husband added, I can't quit my job even after the baby is born, so you'll have to handle the childcare. You're the one who wanted to have it. What about my job? I don't care about that, he bluntly replied. Was his response to my enthusiasm just a temporary appeasement? I felt myself sinking into despair. Time just passed in our new life in the new house, and our relationship gradually grew colder. 3 weeks before the due date, with my belly growing, I went back to my hometown, and there I safely gave birth to a boy. But the baby was born with weaker lung functions, so he had to be hospitalized for observation, and I had to return to Boston alone. Before leaving, my mother said, Come back any time if you need to. Hearing that, I truly felt what motherhood meant. While at home, I talked a lot about my married life with my parents. As my heart lightened, their faces grew gloomier, and then my father's words made me think. 2 hours after boarding the plane, I arrived in Boston. I headed straight for our new house. When I got there, I saw an unfamiliar car parked in the driveway, feeling uneasy. I cautiously opened the front door. Inside, numerous shoes were scattered around. I heard my husband's voice from the back. Mom, Dad, feel free to use any of the spare rooms. I realized then that his parents were in our house. Heading to the living room, I found, as expected, his whole family gathered there. His father, mother, 2 brothers, and 2 sisters, including my husband. That made 7 people. "What are you all doing here?" I shouted as I entered the living room. Everyone turned around at my voice. "Ah, you're back. Had a boy, huh?" Ignoring his question, I continued, "Why didn't you answer my calls? I tried so many times." Then Mary, his sister, chimed in. "Calm down. How's the baby? We were all looking forward to holding our first grandchild." "For now," I answered Mary's question. "He has some lung issues, so I left him in Anchorage. Why are all of you here?" I heard something about rooms. The in-laws exchanged glances. Then, as if to represent them, my husband answered my question. "I was thinking this house is too big for just the 2 of us, and it's hard to clean. Plus, there's childcare. So we're all going to live together, 8 of us and including my family and us. If you don't like it, you can leave." I was stunned. What was he talking about? While I was struggling with childbirth, he had let his family move in and enjoy themselves, and now he was even trying to kick me out without a word of concern. I was taken aback and stood there for a moment. Then he said again, "What's it going to be? You staying or leaving?" Looking at his indifferent face, I remembered my father's words. "Leave. Leave such a worthless husband and come back here. We can sell the house for a good amount. Sometimes letting go is an important choice." My father's words echoed in my mind as I recalled them. The scene in front of me seemed trivial, and without realizing it, I spoke out. "It seems like there's a misunderstanding, but I came here to sell the house." My words were half true and half false. Ever since my father told me to come back home, I had been thinking about our newly bought house. Selling the house we just bought felt like a waste, but staying with my husband was becoming increasingly difficult. So, I thought, why not just sell the house? I had been contemplating this, and now was undoubtedly the right moment to convey this. I wasn't being emotional, it was something that needed to be said. Understandably, my husband and his family were shocked by my words. "What? Wait a minute. The house is in my name, isn't it? Don't make decisions on your own." "That's right. I haven't told you yet, have I?" His voice was slightly irritated. "You remember how you left everything about buying the house to me, right?" "Right. Is that so? Even if you asked me, I wouldn't know." My in-laws were murmuring to each other at my statement. Noticing their commotion, "That's not important right now," my husband snapped. I continued explaining to him. "To put it simply, your income wasn't enough to pass the credit check for buying a house." I was shocked that a 34-year-old only makes $25,000. At this, one of my brother-in-laws reacted, "What? No way. Even I make $40,000, the youngest, Emma, who's 27, said. As my words caused a stir among the in-laws, my husband started to panic. "And don't say unnecessary things." Sweat was beginning to form on his forehead. "The truth is the truth, right? The moment you knew I was pregnant, you suggested abortion. Looking back, maybe I should have left you then." As I spoke, the in-laws looked more and more shocked. It seemed my husband hadn't told them anything. "Please stop this. You're reaping what you sowed." In contrast to my frantic husband, I was calm. I could see his face contorting. Then Tom asked, "So why are you selling the house?" "The income from Mike wasn't enough to pass the credit check for buying this house, so I decided to purchase it in full," I answered. "You earn that much?" My husband's voice was filled with surprise. "I have a good income due to my work. Unlike you, I don't squander money. I've always invested any spare cash in stocks. Now I can live off the profits and dividends alone." Hearing this, the entire family fell silent. I quickly assessed the situation. Since I was the one who bought the house, my husband and his family had no say, but my husband was not ready to give up. "Please don't sell it. Let's live together happily, okay?" He spoke to me with a strained expression. Seeing how pathetic he was, I firmly rejected him. "Don't be ridiculous. You left everything to others, and now you're acting as if you have a say in this. Keep your jokes to your personality. I won't forgive you for what you said about our baby. We're getting a divorce today." The word divorce clearly panicked my husband. All eyes of the in-laws were on him. "Divorce? No, that can't be true. Why did you even think of living with your parents without consulting me?" I finally voiced the question that had been bothering me. I wanted to do something filial for my parents. I thought it was something I could do. It was my father-in-law who reacted to my husband's statement. Don't be ridiculous. It's not filial to take advantage of someone else's hard work and effort, his wife added. That's right. We came here half thinking you bought the house yourself, but this is just betrayal, my brother-in-law added. My brother is the worst. I can't believe this. Surprisingly, my husband started getting attacked by his entire family. Before me, he was visibly shrinking in size. Please stop this, he weakly pleaded, but everyone was clearly fed up with him. Then both of my in-laws turned to me and deeply apologized. We're terribly sorry for our son's behavior. We'll leave quietly and you can do as you please with him. His body trembled at her words. He looked like a male lion being expelled from the pride. There was no charm left in him, either as a man or as a husband. I then said, You see now, right? You and I live in different worlds. Chase your own dreams alone. Goodbye. Let's discuss the rest legally, including child support. After that, my husband slowly collapsed to his knees and remained motionless for a while. 2 days later, my husband and I signed the divorce papers. Next, we planned to discuss child support. Naturally, I got custody. My husband neither had the means nor the temperament to raise a child. Just the thought of handing my child over to such a self-centered man made my skin crawl. Then I returned to Anchorage again. I picked up my hospitalized child and went back to my parents' house. I could raise my child in peace here. Thankfully, my work is all online, so I'm not bound by location. Now I can live freely and comfortably. As for my ex-husband, after that day, he was disowned by his parents and now lives alone in seclusion. I still keep in touch with my former in-laws, so I hear about his situation. My ex-husband, who had no delicacy in his words, I naively thought he might change. This experience taught me that people don't change that easily. However, better days are waiting for me now than when I was with my ex-husband. Of course, due to the presence of my newborn baby, I'm now a mother as well. I have to work hard at both my job and parenting. These thoughts were in my mind as I prepared to feed my baby for the first time.